All right, folks, we're back. Thank you for watching that quick break for us. Getting into Orbital Shipyard next. Again, this is still a best of 5. Currently leading this series, though, and perhaps about to win the first best of 5 as he is up 2-1 currently. In the bottom left side, we've got the Orange Protoss, HuK.
In the top right, as the Blue Terran, he elevates MaSa.
And of course, this tournament is brought to you guys thanks to Ting. You just watch some ads from them, and make sure to check them out. The best part about this URL, bttv.ting.com, like, okay, it gives you some credit, but it lets them know you came from this particular tournament, that you came from this viewership type thing, and lets them know that spending money on StarCraft may not be such a bad thing after all. I do know that it kind of sucks that this is only available in the United States, but luckily those who are in the United States will get to take advantage of it.
Like me.
Yay! And me kind of in April-ish. Going to Texas. Anyways, HuK, though, I love this because like the first game felt like what he was aiming for what just happened in Game 3. For what he was trying to win to get the DTs out, and he knew how tilt-inducing, cheesy, whatever it could be. What I do like, though, is that we don't see him very intentionally going for these macro games, though. Early game aggression out of Protoss does seem to be the best choice. And while nowadays you can't exactly proxy Void Ray or go for the Warp Prism Adept all in like you used to be able to for free wins, it still does challenge the Terran player quite a bit. And if they can survive it, they usually don't come out looking shiny and new. It's usually, like, battered and injured.
Yep. That's HuK's goal most of the time, is to batter and injure the Terran. And then, well, the last 2 times, he's done more than that and actually ended the game. So I would not be surprised to see something here, whether that is a proxy Stargates or otherwise. I feel like HuK kind of getting revenge for MaSa's first game. He's gotten revenge, you know? So if he does a macro game, I guess he's just kind of shown, like, I'm not going to take shit like that anymore. But it looks like MaSa is going to be the one that is really focused on the macro game, and this is quite risky. That is a 3rd CC, no Reaper, no gas. That is quite greedy. But, you know, if you get away with it early enough, then it won't really matter. So basically, if HuK was planning on doing, like, the pylon proxy and then the militia core with a couple of depths running through, that tiny bit of aggression could maybe kill someone going for a build like this. But HuK's not, and unfortunately HuK also doesn't have a scout. He's getting a robo pretty early, so either the Warp Prism or an Observer will be able to scout this, but maybe by the time MaSa is ready to actually defend it.
I just gotta say, like, the 3rd barracks, like, this gasless build opener, this is so good at stopping, you know, Stargate play. Like, let's assume HuK was gonna proxy Stargate for a second, or do regular Stargate like he did on Ruins, but Oracle instead. It just strikes me as I guess a desperate for production build is the best way I can describe that. Like, not only is this greedy, like you said, but the faster he gets that 3rd command center up means the faster he can produce a ton of Marines and maybe just not get overwhelmed like he did in the past. And that might be what is on his mind. Regardless whether that is or isn't the case, however, the concern does go to the fact that with no gas, that means no tech labs, that means no stim, that means no starports. Like, all this stuff is going to be so much slower for him. And while having 50 Marines is good, having 50 unupgraded Marines is not so good.
If you're planning on playing what a lot of people do in Orbital Shipyard, which is quite passive, quite defensive as a Terran player, then that's all well and good. If you're planning on trying to get up to Liberators before you really push out, for instance, which seems to be Orbital Shipyard's jam, then his build is definitely set up for it. We have HuK once again going for a Dark Shrine. This time it is going to be with a Warp Prism, which is going to make it very, very difficult to actually take care of forever, because you're never going to get you might get the DTs, but you're usually not going to get that Warp Prism, especially with how late his tech is. The scan goes down, but of course HuK put it in a pretty clever place. I believe it's just that vision at the front. And this is what killed this Dark Shrine in the first place, having it in the front. But
yeah, I guess the funny thing is, had this actually been like a Reaper scouting or just any sort of push, he would see it, but
yeah,
scan does miss. Now, I guess it is still, like, it's silly how good the Dark Templars worked in Game 3. You gotta imagine they have some sort of benefit here in Game 4 as well. MaSa has no blind turrets down. He does have a couple of scans. 3 orbitals means he should have plenty more than he did last game.
Yeah, and plenty of units to defend as well. There's one missile turret because he actually scouted really nothing with that scan. So a missile turret up against the warp prism that you knew is on the way, regardless if you see the warp prism or the robo or not, that's always going to be an obvious place for the warp prism to come in. It's orbital shipyard after all. And HuK, if he actually goes in there, I think that actually is more on him. He should probably look to go into the main, a little bit to the left of these missile turrets. That's where Terrans are still usually pretty blind, and that's what he does. But there's no scan. There is a scan, unless he just muled.
He
did.
just muled. He's almost got a
That's
scan energy on the third CC though. It's 45, so turrets are coming down. He should be able to get one of his bases covered. I don't know about both. One of his bases should be covered though. And yeah, the turret finishes in the main. So HuK not getting away nearly as much as last time, but still 10 SCV kills right off the bat is pretty nice. I think what really hurt MaSa in that previous game though was a lot less about the SCV kills, which I'm surprised he's still getting, but it was a lot more about like losing like every reactor and every add-on he had like right off the bat.
Yeah, he was losing everything and then getting overwhelmed. So even as simple as making sure the EZTs didn't get in, the scan's still, there we go. So this is going 100% better. HuK obviously didn't accompany an Adept all in with this too, so he has a third base even though it's not quite saturated. It really was not good to lose those extra 3 DTs. That was unfortunate for HuK.
Yeah, the concern is looking at that army supply, right? We have so many times where this happens. Gonna catch that warp prism. Ooh. Nicely done. 1 DT does manage to sneak out. Burning another scan for it wouldn't be too bad, but of course, for HuK's sake, going back to that supply for a moment, if MaSa actually were to push and drop and hit in the front, I don't know that HuK could actually defend it.
Yeah, he's going to get another warp prism instantly yet again. Feels a lot like the first game. And he's hoping to continue to pressure and keep MaSa back. I mean, seeing 16 Marines and 2 medevacs already is not very good. Actually, this is more than 16 Marines now, with 2 medevacs and stim and combat shields. HuK's production is just setting in, but his upgrades aren't quite there yet. And only having +1 Resonating Glaives and Blink, it's a decent, Warp Gate based army, but it's missing, the Immortals, it's missing the Disruptor if you actually bother to get one. It's missing, of course, those storms that come later on in PvT, but it is certainly missing something. He's going to have to depend on numbers, of course, but also the Mothership Overcharge. Actually, MaSa takes this fight here. There
Overcharge
she
is going to do a ton of damage to what is purely Marines, but HuK lost about a third of his units before he even got in range of the Overcharge. Really unfortunate because the Forge is also in a potentially susceptible spot. Not a lot of energy left on this bad boy, but 3 more to 1 more Overcharge.
Yeah, his own +1 is so close to finishing to MaSa's. He does play forward, preempting that pickup. Almost gets a medevac. Tried to. And that was a good fight for MaSa. HuK is going to have much more difficult time as MaSa's upgrades kick in. His +1 armor is almost done. As the Liberators come out as well, that's going to be quite scary.
Well, actually, the Immortals are going to be really, really nice here, as we did see Immortals were kicking ass in that previous series. But that's a lot of medevacs boosting over, and HuK has no idea. Moving in a little bit late, these Adepts are going to transfer slow. The Stalkers won't be here in time, and despite blast efforts through Blink, it's going to be hard to take a fight against this much bio.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
the bio is pretty set up.
It's split as well.
Yeah, because of the gateway. That's what I meant. Split because of the gateway. So that really wasn't so bad for the Stalkers. The Militia Corps is not going to die. Dang.
Might have been better if she did, though.
Yeah, it's always that question, isn't it? 100 gas, not such a big deal for HuK right now, who does not have anything to actually dump all that gas into. Immortals are still more expensive on the mineral side, and the Temple Archive just isn't down yet, which is definitely next on his list of things to do. But first, of course, was not dying to the Terran push.
Yeah. HuK did manage to bridge that supply gap pretty nicely, and even though he lost 10 probes there, he's not super far behind on the overall worker counts. Let's not forget he did have his third down much sooner than MaSa, but whoops, nope, I'm pressing all these wrong buttons. Sorry guys, 1 sec. Turn that off. I don't know about pushing. This is definitely getting a little bit I don't know, greedy, we'll say, but not able to take out that Liberator immediately. He'll take a couple of shots. The Immortal's going to do some pretty good damage. 1-1 here in the favor of MaSa, and those Widow Mines big, so HuK can't really push forward. SimCity's a little bit awkward as well.
Yeah, the Liberator's starting to get shots, and the Blink Stalkers cannot get on top of it. The other Liberator's also getting shots. He blinks into the first one, but this
like
didn't
7
start
kills
off
between the two.
terribly, but it certainly ended a lot worse for HuK.
He dedicated a lot more to this than he needed to, and this This was like not a fight I feel HuK needed to take either. This wasn't hitting some sick timing, and maybe he thought with having killed so much through the drop, there wouldn't be any defense at home. But giving away the Immortal, I think, was the worst part of this, obviously. If he takes out the turret, then potentially can start bringing some DTs back into the fight. The Warp Prism is right here, after all. But starting to bleed out what he has on the high ground. MaSa holding on pretty well so far. New Liberators coming into the fight. Proven to be very, very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, and MaSa's own production is not quite to full because he's missing reactors on those extra 3 barracks, but it is an extra 3 barracks. It's really not that bad. And HuK, he still hasn't really equalized the damage, but I guess he's starting to make it look a little bit better, especially if he blinks on top here, maybe gets a couple of Immortal, or Marauders, rather. But what now I'm worried about is that HuK, he finishes +2, which is nice, but he's not getting anything else. Ooh. This is just him pushing.
Goes right past those Liberators, straight into the mineral line. Now this is where he's going to start getting some damage that's worth a while. 10 SCVs fall pretty damn quick. Stalkers blink to the main, and MaSa segmented a large portion of units to deal with these, so he doesn't even deal with all the adepts. They actually clean out the third base entirely. 19 SCVs die. Some of these Stalkers actually are living because they're blinking away, and the control so far out of HuK's not too bad. Blinks the rest of them up to the high ground, takes advantage of the immobility of those Liberators. These Liberators, these Widow Mines, they say nothing walks up this ramp, but adepts and Stalkers say otherwise. This actually went from bad to better to worse to now it's working.
The Liberator's your position, but the Widow Mines are not. So here comes the other Liberator. There's nothing to tear down this Warp Prism either. I decides to blink into it. I mean, I was going to say, he really actually doesn't have to fight here. He could just back away and kill all the SCVs in the base, but now realizing that might be the key. Nice. Doesn't matter. GG. MaSa had gone down to 28 workers during all of that. That was pretty brutal.
That was great, though. Game number one made HuK look bad. Games 2, 3, and 4, that's what brought him back. And HuK will go to the winner's bracket in tonight's group stage. But that doesn't mean we're done. We're only just at